Have you ever felt like, you're working really hard, maybe making decent money, but that goal of real financial freedom just seems kind of out of reach?
Yeah, that feeling of just treading water financially.
Exactly. Like controlling your time,
Yeah.
building actual wealth that lasts. It feels so elusive sometimes. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a book that really promises to uh, shake up how you think about money. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a huge name in personal finance.
A genuine phenomenon, really.
Right. And our mission here isn't just to give you a book report. We want to give you a shortcut, basically, to understanding the big ideas Kiyosaki puts forward.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at the strengths, sure, but also the criticisms, and just kind of get a handle on why it's had such a lasting impact. We're pulling out the key stuff from our sources so you get the essence without needing to read the whole thing yourself.
And it definitely earned that phenomenon status. It came out back in 1997, and the whole thing is built around this really interesting contrast.
The two dads, right?
Exactly. His biological dad, the poor dad, highly educated, believed in the traditional path. Good grades, secure job.
The standard advice most of us get.
Totally. And then there's his best friend's father, the rich dad, who had this completely different, almost counterintuitive view on money and building wealth. Kiyosaki uses their conflicting advice to teach these core lessons about financial independence.
Okay, so you got these two opposing views right from the start. Where does Kiyosaki begin? Like, what's the first big piece he wants us to understand?
The absolute cornerstone, really, is his definition of assets versus liabilities, and he really flips the common understanding here.
How so?
Well, his point is super clear. An asset puts money in your pocket, period. A liability takes money out of your pocket.
Okay, simple enough.
But here's the kicker. He famously challenges the idea that your house, your primary home, is always an asset.
Oh, right. That's a big one.
Yeah, because if it's costing you money every month, mortgage, taxes, upkeep, and not generating income, he argues it's functioning like a liability.
So what does he say is an asset then?
He pushes hard for investing in things that actually generate income. So think rental properties bringing in rent, businesses you own that make profit, or even stocks that pay dividends, a share of the company's profits, things that feed your bank account.
That really reframes things. Because, we're often taught, work hard, get paid, buy stuff, buy a house. But Kiyosaki talks about something he calls the rat race. How does that fit in here?
It fits perfectly. The rat race, as he describes it, is exactly that cycle you just mentioned.
Okay.
You work hard at your job, you earn money, but then you immediately spend it on liabilities, car payments, bigger house, more stuff that costs you money ongoing.
So you're just working to pay the bills, basically.
Exactly. You're stuck on this treadmill, working harder and harder just to keep up with your expenses. And his solution isn't just work harder or get a raise.
Right. What is it then?
It's about breaking the cycle through financial education and strategic investing, making your money start working for you.
Okay, making your money work for you.
Okay.
Escape the treadmill. That resonates. But he kind of points a finger at something surprising as part of the problem, doesn't he? Something we think is the solution.
Yeah.
Traditional school.
Oh, yeah. He has some, let's say, strong opinions about formal education.
I've heard that. What's his argument?
He basically argues that school is great at teaching you how to be a good employee, job skills, following instructions.
Sure.
But it completely misses the boat on financial literacy. It doesn't teach you how to build wealth, how to be an owner, how to invest.
So the rich dad lessons were more valuable.
In his view, absolutely. Those real-world money lessons, understand how money actually works, were far superior to academic knowledge for building wealth. It makes you wonder, is the system designed to create employees rather than owners?
That's a provocative thought. Employee versus owner. But, okay, understanding concepts is one thing. Changing how you feel about money, dealing with fear, that seems harder. What does Kiyosaki say about the mindset needed?
Mindset is huge for him. Absolutely central. He points to fear, especially the fear of losing money, and just a general lack of financial know-how as these massive psychological roadblocks.
Yeah, that fear can be paralyzing.
Totally. People get scared, they don't take action, they don't invest. But the rich dad mindset he champions, it's about embracing calculated risk, seeing mistakes or losses not as failures, but as learning opportunities. Tuition paid, basically.
So learn from your mistakes. Don't let fear stop you.
Exactly. Overcoming that emotional hurdle is key to actually doing something differently with your finances.
Okay, so for those listeners wanting to take more control, maybe get off that treadmill, Kiyosaki really emphasizes entrepreneurship, right? Starting your own thing.
He does, strongly. The core idea is that controlling your income stream is vital for financial freedom.
Rather than relying on an employer.
Precisely. He promotes owning businesses as, well, a much more effective way to build wealth than being an employee.
Yeah.
When you own the system, you control the cash flow, you have leverage.
But isn't that super risky? And doesn't it take a lot of money to start?
Well, he acknowledges it takes effort and learning, but his focus is less on the initial risk or capital and more on developing the financial intelligence to manage it. It's about learning the rules of the game, essentially, rather than being afraid to play.
Okay. And speaking of rules,
Yeah.
taxes. That's something
Yeah.
most of us just kind of deal with, right? Fill out the forms, pay up.
Mm.
What's Kiyosaki's take on how the wealthy handle taxes?
Taxes. Yeah, he spends a good amount of time on this. He basically pulls back the curtain on how the wealthy legally use the tax system to their advantage.
No.
A big part of it is understanding corporations, not just for running a big company, but how using a corporate structure can help reduce your tax burden and protect your assets.
Stuff the average employee doesn't learn.
Exactly. It's presented as this powerful tool that investors and business owners use to keep more of their money working for them instead of just handing it over. It's about understanding the system.
Okay, so you got assets versus liabilities, the rat race, questioning education, mindset, entrepreneurship, taxes. It's a lot of, well, challenging ideas.
Yeah.
No wonder the book made such waves. What are its biggest strengths? Why did it connect with so many people?
I think, first off, it's just incredibly accessible. He uses stories, simple language, makes complicated financial stuff feel understandable.
Yeah, the narrative format helps.
Definitely. But maybe the biggest thing is the mindset shift it creates. It genuinely makes people rethink work, money, investing. It pushes self-reliance, lifelong learning.
And the focus on financial literacy itself.
Absolutely. It really lights a fire under people to seek out financial knowledge that they just didn't get in school. It highlights these practical concepts that are often ignored.
Right. But like any influential book, especially one that challenges norms, it's got its critics. What are the main arguments against Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Probably the most common criticism is that it's, well, kind of light on concrete, actionable advice.
More philosophy than a step-by-step guide.
Exactly. If you want a detailed how-to on investing in stocks or real estate, this isn't really it. Then there are questions about the rich dad himself. Was he real? Exaggerated? Which makes some people question the factual basis.
Credibility questions.
Yeah. And some critics say it oversimplifies wealth building. The buy assets idea is strong, sure, but does it fully account for complex economic factors or like systemic inequalities that make it harder for some people?
Good point. It's not a level playing field for everyone.
Right. And finally, the heavy focus on real estate and entrepreneurship. They're great paths for some, but not feasible or right for everyone. And maybe the book downplays the risks and the capital needed sometimes.
So some valid points on both sides. But despite the critiques, its impact is just undeniable, isn't it? What's the legacy here?
Oh, the legacy is massive. We're talking over 40 million copies sold, translated everywhere. It's staggering.
Wow.
And it wasn't just book sales. It really sparked a movement around financial literacy. You saw seminars, courses, the cash flow game he created, a whole brand.
Yeah, you see his stuff everywhere.
And you have to give it credit. It got so many people, especially younger folks and aspiring entrepreneurs, to actually start thinking about financial independence, maybe for the first time.
Okay, so for you, the listener, tuning in today, who is this deep dive really speaking to? Who should maybe pick up the book after this?
I'd say it's really potent for beginners in personal finance who need that fundamental mindset shift. If you feel kind of trapped in the 9-to-5 grind and are wondering about alternatives, it can be a real eye-opener.
And entrepreneurs.
Definitely. Aspiring or current entrepreneurs will find a lot of validation for their path. Basically, anyone feeling stuck and wanting to explore beyond the traditional get a job, save money advice.
So if we were to kind of rate it based on our sources, how does it stack up? Let's say readability, inspiration, practicality.
Okay, based on what we've covered, readability, easily 5 stars, super easy read.
Agreed.
Inspirational value, also 5 stars. It motivates a lot of people.
For sure.
Practical application, here's where it dips, maybe 2 stars. Reflecting that lack of specific how-to steps.
Right, the common critique.
Financial accuracy, maybe 3 stars. Powerful ideas, but some simplifications and debated claims.
Okay.
And overall impact, Despite flaws, gotta be 4 stars.
Its influence is just too big to ignore.
Okay, that's a helpful breakdown. So, wrapping this up, what's the final, concise takeaway for our listeners from this deep dive? How should we frame this book?
I think the key takeaway is that Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't really a how-to guide in the traditional sense. It's
Hmm.
much more of a philosophical blueprint.
A way of thinking.
Exactly. Its main job is to challenge that standard life script. Go to school, get a safe job, save, retire. It's brilliant at opening your mind to different ways wealth can be built.
But it's a starting point, definitely. An excellent starting point for questioning assumptions. But to really apply these ideas safely and effectively, you absolutely need to follow it up. Dig into more detailed books on actual investing strategies, financial planning, understanding risk. It opens the door, but you got to do the work to walk through it and learn more.
Great summary. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the very impactful world of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, and maybe a final thought to leave you with. This whole discussion shows financial education isn't just crunching numbers, right? It's about challenging beliefs you might not even realize you have. So the question is, what other common sense ideas about money might be holding you back, and how can you maybe start questioning those too?
Definitely something to think about. We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights to explore further on your own.